When PAX started out many, many years ago, things like Microsoft and Sony were only vaguely present. And really what was at the heart of it was a lot of independent games, small games that needed attention. As PAX has grown, it's become a showcase for EAs and 2Ks of the world. The indie game spirit has maintained, and it's really present at the Indie Megabooth, which is a showcase of some of the most creative development that's happening out there by teams that don't have money, don't have a ton of people, and need attention. Over this week, we're going to be showcasing some of these fascinating games that are on display at the booth. But first, I got a chance to talk with some of the people who put their hard work, blood, sweat, and tears into making this booth happen. PAX in, PAX out. We've been hearing about indie games probably even more than 4 years, but things seem to be happening, and I would have to say in the past year, and I would say just with the recent releases of Gone Home and Papers, Please, there's suddenly a sense that indie games have gone from being, I don't want to dismiss it with faint praise, but something of a novelty to something that's starting to feel very interesting and almost essential to the larger gaming ecosystem.
Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting because, like I said, we've been doing this for about 2 years now, and sort of a lot of the indie games that people knew initially were really big name titles like Cappy or Monaco, you know, like sort of these sort of big hitting indies, and they were sort of helping to pave the way to bring in these new and interesting games and helping to build a community for indie developers to feel like they could show their games out to public and they could make these things, but you know, within the freedom with being outside of the publishers. You know, it's not like we're technically competing with AAA games because people who play games play games. They buy a game and they're more likely to buy other games. But we just want to show people that there's there's other ways that you can express yourself in this new medium, and there's fun, creative stuff that's going on, and people like that. You know, you can play a big game, and maybe when you're done with that, you're like, hey, you know, what else is out there? Or what else can I do? And you know, here it is.
Also, Gone Home being something very present in my mind, but we're right next to That Dragon Cancer. I mean, we're looking at teams that are trying to look at games as an expressive form to deal with things that, yes, they're very serious, but also I can't think of another way to sort of articulate what they want to express. A book or a film would be almost too obvious.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So you said Papers, Please. Lucas Pope has this idea of games being a way that you can be a people simulator, because it's a way that you can learn empathy in a way that you can't do through films and books, because you're following a character and you're following a set line or a set storyline that character has put out for you. Where in this case, you give somebody a situation and you let them as a person interact with the situation, and that's an amazing way to be able to teach people empathy in a way. And so you can express these things and you can give sort of an experience to a person that you can in any other medium.
The way the medium of interaction is being used has been really interesting in the past year, and there's really this exploration of what is a game, what isn't a game, and I don't think anybody in the developer community really cares about that argument. What we care about is that there are new interesting ways of using interaction, and Papers, Please is a great example of using tediousness. Like, it's just the same thing over and over again while telling a story. And while putting you in the shoes of somebody else.
You're experiencing these things that you may have never encountered in your life, but these games make you feel what it would be like to be in that position. And that's amazing, because it's really difficult to do that with something that's not interactive, and something, like you said, that you can only do with games.
Typically, there were just enough indie games for the space, and now we're looking at there's so many and so many good ones that you actually had to go through the tough job of curation.
Yeah, the biggest problem this time, well, I don't know if it was a problem, it's a problem we're happy to have, is we had about 170 submissions, and we had to pare that down to about 80 games, and I think about 60 developers.
So the Megabooth isn't just a booth for people to show off their games, it's also a way for developers to get in touch with each other. We're building a community around the booth. So we want people that fit both in that and in they have an interesting game to show that is different or interesting or new or exciting.
We've just been doing our best to show off the best and biggest diverse selection of games.
And what we really ended up with and what we're trying to do is to show a picture of what the indie scene is right now at this moment. You know, we have games like you were saying, that Dragon Cancer. You know, we have the Crypt of the Necro Dancer, which is the DDR like fighting game, and you know, and we're trying to show that you know there are there's a really wide variety of these types of things.
Like I said, the form of games is no longer just the thing that we knew from before. And I actually think with the Megabooth as well, we tried to have that whole spectrum of like interesting, weird, new, novel things up to the big action games or the really big AAA, double A indie titles. So we try to have everything in here just to make sure that everybody that walks here, everybody that has never seen an indie game before can walk in here and be like, there is this one game that I saw in this corner of the floor that is amazing.
It's more about the experience and more about just getting an emotion or an idea across and kind of leaving you with that and just letting you think on it, rather than being like, oh, I beat the boss, I killed all these enemies or whatever. Even if there is stuff like that in it, like with Hotline Miami, it leaves you with something to contemplate, like, why am I killing all these people? And that's pretty amazing.
So okay, let's imagine 5 years from now.
Okay.
Now is it the Indie Ultra Megabooth? I mean, it's already a Megabooth.
Yeah.
So you've painted yourself into that corner.
Yeah.
Where do you see it evolving?
So that's one of the things that we're sort of working on now. So like I was mentioning before, we're going to be going to Gamescom next year. So we're looking to expand into just other areas and other conferences where they're consumer facing, where there's not really an indie presence. Like when I was there, there's maybe 10 or 15 indie developers there, and then a bunch of people that just really had nowhere to go. So we had sort of an ad hoc small booth space where we just ended up collecting all the like lost indies at this conference. And we're trying to come up with ways like, how do we just help indie developers and the indie scene in general to do what it wants to do? Like, how do we support people and help them to be successful in whatever that means, and give them the support network that they need, because they're not in a big company and they don't have PR people and they don't have lawyers, they don't have this, but like we have friends that are lawyers that will look over things, or we have somebody that can help you out with advice for marketing, and so just sort of building that and growing that and then seeing where it goes from there is really what I'd like to do.
I think my main goal, at least with the Megabooth, is to have people go to PAX and be going there for the Megabooth. Like, that is their reason for being here, to see all these amazing games. We're already the biggest booth on the show floor at this point, which is pretty awesome. I didn't expect that to ever happen.
Well, let's point out, Sony and Microsoft are here, and you guys are the biggest booth.
Yeah, exactly. And we put this together with our meager budgets and just like a lot of love and community. Like, it's great because our greatest asset as indies is each other.
I don't even know where Flambeer is going to be in 5 years. I don't know where the Megabooth is going to be in 5 years. I don't know where any of these people are going to be in 5 years, but hopefully they'll all still be doing what they love, and that's really all I care about.
Do you see this as a conversation that's happening between the actual independent developers and obviously established corporations that are starting to actually pay attention? I mean, is there concern? Is there just happiness?
So I mean, we're actually, and I talk with them frequently because this is a large selection of indie games where people can come and look at this. So the Sony press announcement at E3, like almost everybody that was up there was from the Megabooth, and we know them when we know that they're coming through and like picking out the games that they want to look at. And so they're getting input from people like me. They're talking to the developers. I think that what they're doing is that it's a huge market that obviously there's a lot of interest for it, and there's no reason to miss out on it, really. And so, but there's a lot of different ways that indie developers need help because they don't, like I said, have the infrastructure. They can't do 15 pages of forms, and working with these teams is just sort of like a little bit foreign to companies that are like this. So that I do see that they're making these efforts, and there's a conversation that's going, and it's exciting because, like I said, this is just more opportunities for indie developers to connect with the fans who want to play their games.
All right, well, I wish you all the best. I really, really appreciate what you're doing. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, great, thank you.